Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Astara and I'm an angelic communicator and clairvoyant. And I want to talk today about twin flame telepathy because I didn't know this was a thing, but now I do. Um, so, if you're on a twin flame journey, I hope you can relate to this video. So, I always kind of knew that I had a sort of telepathy with some people. And these were usually my mother and my daughter. And not both my daughters, just one of my daughters. And very occasionally, I would also have just a feeling of somebody else, like names or words or something coming out of them. But in general, it was a kind of a bit hazy, apart from with my mother and my daughter, and we have a DNA link. So I just thought, yeah, we're gonna we're gonna be able to communicate on some level. So when you meet your twin flame, there can be something very odd about the connection. Often when you first meet them, it's quite confusing. You're having a lot of, sensations, a lot of feelings, a lot of activations. Often you have a Kundalini activation or a heart awakening, like big things go on when you meet your twin. And you're often like trying to work things out. But what I've noticed here is that mental telepathy is definitely a part of the programming. So these are like signs, feelings, inner conversations, dreams, sudden thoughts that you're having about your twin that come out of nowhere. And what I want to do here is validate that experience because yes, it's real. No, you're not going mad. And the first time I realized my twin and I were talking mentally or we were doing mind to mind is when we were actually together. And I remember him saying something, and I remember thinking in my head, oh, I wouldn't do it or something. I remember just sitting there blandly, but thinking in my head, there's no way I'm going to do that. And then he answered that question. And I was like, oh, I was a bit taken aback. It was a bit unusual. Um, and so this kind of went on a few times. And then obviously you go into separation, you don't see them. But then what was actually happening was there was a huge amount of mental telepathy, mental conversations going on, even over the distance in separation. So this can kind of feel like you're having a conversation in your head with someone else, which is a kind of very weird thing. But because I'm a angelic clairvoyant, because I spend most of my time talking to beings who are not in physical bodies, it's kind of easy for me to work out that's what I'm doing. And a few ways that I really found out that that's what was going on were coming from the fact that I was doing readings for people because that's what I do. I do a lot of my work with consultations with other people, and he would be coming in on the consultation. So I'd be speaking to another being, whether it be their guide or an angel, and suddenly my twin flame would be coming in on the conversation, and I would have to kind of stop the reading a bit and tell my twin, please don't interrupt this space right now. So this is a thing. It does happen. So I just want to talk about the truth of a twin flame connection and why it makes it possible. Because twin flames, they share the same soul frequency. They are the same soul in two different bodies. They are having parallel existences in the same time, which is very, very unusual. So if we imagine they are one soul or in two bodies, two consciousnesses deeply entangled in energy and purpose. So they are literally a reflection of one another, the exact same frequency. So, because of that, telepathic connection is very natural. It doesn't require words, it doesn't need proximity, it's a soul to soul communication and it transcends logic on any level. So, if you've ever heard their voice, if you have a twin, if you ever heard their voice in your head, if you felt their emotions suddenly out of nowhere, that's more like an empathic connection, but that also goes on. And you know what they're about to say or do before it happens, or you felt sudden waves of love, pain, or longing that wasn't yours. Now, when we get onto the emotional stuff, it's quite important to know that there is a lot of transference of emotion where you can actually feel how your twin is feeling, which is very intense. And it's not imagination, it's not delusion. It really is the connection between you, your bond, speaking, communicating. So Often twin flame telepathy is coming through the higher chakras. I would say it's coming through the mental realm, but also the heart center. But when I'm talking about mental telepathy, I'm often talking about the conversations you're having that they're actually answering and you're having them between you. So the twin flames are energetically open to one another. So that doesn't matter if you're asleep or awake or meditating or even emotionally vulnerable. And in fact, the more you send out messages to your twin, the more they pick up on them. So it's really important if you're arguing with your twin in your head because you're in separation or you're feeling kind of bad one day and you're blaming your twin for something, just know that they can hear that and they can feel that. And that doesn't actually help their journey. So by all means, call people out on their behavior. I'm a big fan of that, but also just be aware that you need to be talking to yourself and your twin in a gentle, kind, compassionate way because you don't want to create any more distortion and you do not want to create any more disturbance or separation in your field. So, if you feel like you're going around talking to your twin on your head, in your head, you probably are. There might be words or phrases that you feel are inserted into your thoughts. You might even start talking some about some music or something that is completely not your style or your interest. And you might get images or memories that don't belong to you. I often felt that my twin and I would go into a bit of a daydream, and I felt like I was looking through his eyes in his life, thinking about certain people in his life that I knew, and thinking about stuff that I would never even think about. It just wouldn't be interesting to me. It would never happen ever. And sometimes it's the most boring stuff, but I would definitely see flashes of that person in my head, and just knowing that they are, sending that message down the bond, through the bond. And yes, if it makes you think of Edward Cullen from Twilight, yeah, I think of that too. It's really weird. And what I want to say on this is sometimes it can be really annoying. So I found that I got to a certain point when it was too intense, and I began to do certain techniques and practices which I teach all throughout my spiritual protection to actually just numb out that kind of the voice and just give me a little bit of protection. It wasn't that I didn't want to be connected to my twin because I absolutely do. It was more like I didn't want to have that constant uh, you know, going around in my head, that constant conversation when I was trying to focus on my life, focus on something different, do my work. I didn't really want that complete, overtaking of my mind, particularly if it was in separation. If we were together in connection, that is a different story, and maybe there would be less of this telepathy. But it was really important to me to have my own space, to protect my own space. And I do know techniques on how to do that. So let me know if you're interested in finding out how I did it. I didn't do it any way that harmed my twin. We all know that twin flame cord cutting and doesn't actually work. And believe me, I tried it. I tried everything to disconnect from my twin. So it's finding a way to live with these things and to know that you don't have to get stuck. You're not a victim of this. Yes, you can hear them. Yes, you can have these conversations with them. But it's kind of crazy making if in the 3D they're saying something completely different. If the 3D they don't reach out, there's no contact, they act cold, they deny the connection. This is all very common with the twin flame dynamic. And you might start wondering if you are crazy. But let me say this very clearly, you are not crazy, you are sensitive, you are attuned, you are actually a superpower. And this ability is something that we're all moving towards in the future, but twin flames are awakening to it now. This is a spiritual phenomena, not a mental breakdown. So I just want to make that clear that your intuition, your empathy is a gift. It's an absolute gift. And it's one that you've earned through many lifetimes to be able to get to a place where you have these super sensible gifts. So even if on this journey it can feel like a little bit of craziness is going on, actually what you're leading into is finding a way to have mastership over it, become your own master around this, even with your twin, and maybe especially with your twin. So twin flame telepathy is powerful, just so you know that, and it can create a lot of fear because you can feel tangled up, particularly if you're in fear and expectation or longing for your twin. And you might even hear your own thoughts and think, Oh, I hope that my twin doesn't hear that. So, this is why inner healing is really essential and to be grounded in your own truth. So I'm going to leave this video here and let you know that, if there's something happening with your twin that's uncomfortable, you can have the power to put some protection around you, even if it's your twin, and dull down the mental connection. But just keep trusting your intuition, keep grounding in your heart, and remember, they are feeling the messages too. So it's not all one way. Anyway, good luck to you all on your twin flame journey. If you want to know more, please subscribe and I will release more videos as we go along. Bye.